Thank you, T. I'd first like to thank definitely Google for this event. It's a great opportunity to really kind of showcase you guys, not just even e-commerce in Thailand, but also the trends that are happening in Southeast Asia, and even out parts of the rest of the world that we can learn from. When I first really looked at starting aCommerce, what was fascinating for me was that we were in the industry of media and advertising, and really before starting aCommerce, we saw a big challenge and big problem in the logistics and the infrastructure. And this is really our vision was to solve this, but also along the way we realized that e-commerce wasn't just logistics and supply chain, but rather even technology and marketing. And so when companies and people look at e-commerce, I'd like you guys to look at it from a different scope, meaning look at it from marketing all the way down to delivery and logistics as well, and not just kind of the e-commerce or the storefront. So is e-commerce a waste of time, and are we too early, right? So I'd first like to just kick off with more of not talking about necessarily e-commerce, but the consumer and the customer, right? And what are the trends of the customer today? Because the customer in Thailand is so different from the customers, elsewhere, meaning the rest of the world, because we have evolved differently and we've leapfrogged certain things. So when you think about the customer, right, that is the center of every business. There's only one boss, as you can see this quote, the customer, and he can fire everybody in the company from the chairman on down. When you don't evolve, right, and you don't adapt to the customer, these are going to be the challenges I think that retailers are going to face. So when you look at 1910 versus 2015 today, the retail storefront has not really changed, right? But look at the consumers definitely have. And you can see a lot of people here with, mobile phones in their pockets. And what I like to say is those are basically like cash registers, that people carry around. This is the age of the customer. And when you look at how businesses in the past had serious power, meaning that they were controlling the price, the location, the information, and the customer was, in some ways, they had to lure the customer. The customer had to be lured to the business. And when you look at the big different changes now, right? The access to internet, smartphones, social media, you can see that the customer has so many different choices, right? And the power with technology has completely shifted. So really businesses need to adapt to the technology, right? And to technology, and customers that want to shop anytime, anywhere, anyhow, and from any device. This is the customer today. And when you think about what businesses need to do, that's a big hill to climb, right? To sell anytime, anywhere, on any device, fulfill from anywhere. Whether it's a store, whether it's the fulfillment center, warehouse, and built to handle also returns anywhere. So really, in aCommerce, we're looking at kind of the customer journey and what the customer needs, right? And looking at not only do we build the services around this, but also building the products and technology to be able to support this for many of the businesses that are coming that are moving towards e-commerce. I want to just showcase that kind of how mobile phones are prevalent in our day-to-day lives. And when you look at, for example, stuck in Bangkok traffic, I'm looking for a shoe store, right? I go in the shoe store and physically I'm looking for prices, ratings, reviews, right? Some people may look beforehand, some people may look in store, but this is the consumer habits, right? Chat, talking to brothers, friends, wives, should I buy these, right? And you can see why, later on I'll show you why chat is such a big part of also e-commerce. Buying the shoes online. A lot of people think you have to be in a specific context, specific mindset to buy, but actually with mobile phones, you can buy anywhere, anytime. And then checking your orders. So when you think about e-commerce, it is not just the storefront, but actually the entire supply chain that comes with checking your order status and being able to know when your products are going to be arriving, as well as also being able to pick it up in store or be able to pick it up in different locations. And then obviously, where to return the shoes, where are the physical stores. When you think about it, it is not just online, right? It's actually the engagement with the customer is happening online and offline. And a lot of people are just thinking e-commerce is only online and on web, but technically, you can actually be in a physical store getting that impulse buy, and you have your phone to search, to do ratings, and to even purchase. Now, when you look at the time spent on smartphones, it is astonishing, almost 3 hours per day, right? And if you think about it, even now for human beings using their smartphones on a daily basis, right? There's starting to be, kind of a cap of how many hours do we actually use our phone. And I think the next wave of internet is going to be more of the selection, the curation, because we only have a certain amount of time on the phone, and you got to think about the limited amount of services that we can look at and the limited amount of games and etc. that we engage with. This what I thought was interesting, which is this just shows you how dominant cell phones are in our everyday society. And you have different lanes, for obviously people that are using phones and not. aCommerce client traffic. When you take a look at this and you look at the how it's so different from global, as well as when you look at Lazada and just over quarter on quarter, how mobile phones just started to really become dominant. And a lot of people talk about the online piece, but in this summit, I want to kind of show you guys a bit of the offline world, right? Because that's where we see a lot of the trends happening as well. And when you look at total retail sales, this is forecast for 2016. I mean, that's a huge number compared to the online retail. And obviously, sometimes when you look at e-commerce, separating out travel, digital goods from physical goods, I think that's important. And these numbers here are really focusing more on the physical goods side. Why Thais don't buy online? Sorry, there's some. But you can see here, really, the keynote here is that touch and feel, right? The product visibility, right? It's keeping them away from online shopping. No credit card. Trust is an issue, hence COD growth. When you look at basically people, even credit card penetration, bank transfers and whatnot, it's still very limited. And this is why 70% COD in our markets to date, because people can see the product, they can basically use cash, use credit card once they see the product at their doorstep. The in-store behavior before purchase. Well, when you take a look at this, really, we did an offline survey where we interviewed hundreds of customers, both in shopping stores, in malls, also on sidewalks, and thanks to the ecommerceIQ team. But when you can see, what you see here is that salespeople are still incredibly important in part of that process, right, of the purchase behavior. Second is mobile search. Interesting is when they're at actually the point of purchase, they're looking for other options and whatnot. So when you look at Nordstrom's in the US, it's really the leader in omni-channel, meaning that when a salesperson goes into a store and they can't buy something or they can't find what they want, the sales clerk actually has an iPad to show them where all the inventory is, whether it's in this store or the next store, but even be able to buy online on the spot and they deliver to the customer directly. So really the key trends driving commerce in Thailand, and I'm trying to really look at commerce versus e-commerce, even though the demand may start from e-commerce, but even in terms of the customer journey, it actually goes offline as well. When you look at mobile phones, search, social, online to offline, and really the trend more is online to offline versus, let's say, omni-channel. Not very many retailers today are actually omni-channel ready, but rather they're experimenting with online and driving to offline. In Indonesia, it's becoming much more aggressive, where the experience is in more multi-channel and cross-channel versus omni. But I'd probably say this year, the next year, they're going to be aggressively offering omni-channel solutions within the retail stores, and I'll show you more on that later. Cross-border, if you're a retailer here, especially locally in Thailand, you got to think about where Thais are shopping, and more Thais are starting to shop overseas. There's obviously some barriers, and I'll show you more later, but those are challenges I think for a lot of retailers. not only from a price comparison perspective, but even product selection, as well as, kind of even when you think about these big players like Amazon and Alibaba, the level of returns, the support that they give to be able to buy anywhere in the world, it's huge, and that's where I think a lot of local players have to really think about. Marketplaces, aggregating brands and retailers and SMEs, and it's a huge opportunity, obviously, here locally. Thailand, Southeast Asian numbers, Thailand, 17.6 annual growth. Some say it's about 20%. To just give you an overview. E-commerce percentage of total retail, you can see where Thailand stands and the evolution of that with India, Singapore, China, United States. Thais research before they buy online. What I found really interesting here is the social media purchasing behavior as well, which is people using Instagram, using Facebook, using Line to actually make transactions and purchase. Obviously, mobile very dominant as a platform. Thais still research before they buy online and in store. This is, remember, offline survey, right? So when you look at this, it's really the behavior, what people are doing offline. We're not doing the survey online at all, and it's really fascinating to even see that search engines and obviously using online as they look and research in store. So services most appealing to Thais: buy online, deliver to home, right? But buy in store and deliver to home, and the reason why that's number 2 is because of product selection. Right? They know the products, they go to a store, it's not available, they want it to be able to buy online, be able to deliver to home, or buy in store, deliver to home. Free online returns and etc. So, this is why we did the partnership with, BTS and Skybox, allowing people to pick up anywhere to kind of accelerate that as well. Also, Smart Ship integration with Thai Post. So Smart Ship is one of our shipping management product that we launched in aCommerce, allowing people to pick up, returns, or send. And really clients, when you look at, kind of Keo's brand site, buy online or in store, they have a loyalty rewards program, and that's incredibly important. Centralized inventory, knowing what's in store, what's in the warehouse. Order in store, ship to home. Returns, ship to the FC. Matahari, I would say, is probably the most mature, right? When you look at that, the services that they're able to offer, it's almost omni-channel. But technically it's cross-channel because all the inventory isn't managed completely centralized, and I will show you more of that later. Multi-brand retail and hybrid marketplace for MAP e-mall. So that is more, they're a retailer trying to go into a marketplace. And I'll show you some pictures. Sorry, the slides a bit contorted here. Don't know what happened. Sorry, let me just go back. I just want to emphasize here that the order management system, right, which is central in every single retailer, right, is incredibly important. And there's really 4 things that an order management system drives, right? The warehouse management system, the POS in your store, call center when people order, whether it's from catalog or TV, and e-commerce platforms. The future, you're going to see that every store, it's the OMS in the middle, it's like the engine of a car, right? And to have a strong order management system for every retailer, for every brand, is incredibly important because it allows you to manage your inventory across any platform. And we're going to see that evolution happening over probably this year, when companies are going to start looking at their warehouse management system and their order management system, to manage any form of channels, not just e-commerce. Matahari Mall, buy online, pick up in store, lockers. For example, MAP e-mall, so allowing you to fulfill from a store, right? So when you do e-commerce, it doesn't necessarily have to just come from the warehouse, but you can actually also tie up to a POS, point of sale, in the in-store. So there's now customers in merchandise in the store, and they want to launch on marketplaces. If they have merchandise in-store and in the warehouse, we can pull that inventory and sell it on multiple different channels for you. And there's evolutions and steps, obviously, but you don't have to go full on into e-commerce and make sure you revamp everything, your order management system. You can actually do it in a very cost-effective manner, and this is what these retailers and brands are working with us currently in both markets. Online and offline retail partnership with DKSH. When you can see DKSH and hundreds and hundreds of brands, And for us, we work with them. We actually are also within their fulfillment center, where we're helping fulfill all the B2C or business to consumer orders. And when you can see here, we work with them to really help the brands fulfill online orders, as well as pickups and delivery to whether the pickup centers, to deliver to home. Not yet in store, but that's soon coming. So when you look at omni-channel and demand, Thailand, I would say, is probably around the multi-channel, right? Matahari, you could see, was around doing cross-channel already. And multi-channel is really e-commerce separated completely from your traditional retail or offline retail. Once you start to go into omni-channel, you're basically, the consumer can buy anywhere, you fulfill from anywhere, and it can return anywhere. And to be able to have that data integration across all the different channels and all the different platforms are incredibly important. And then once you start to collect that data, it's called commerce relevancy, when you're going, okay, what kind of products do I recommend for people outside of Bangkok, right? What specific locations should I recommend people to pick up in store, close to Siloam, not, let's just say, in store, away from Siloam, right? So once you start to have that data, you can really use that data to start to marketing to people, even by location, right? And as you can start to see, that marketing is incredibly important in the whole mix, because that's really where you get your traffic from. But connect them to where the inventory is incredibly important. Omnichannel ROI case study, people are saying, do I really make money? And what's really interesting is this is really for a retailer doing so comparing retailers online and offline. But when you look at e-commerce pure play, in the US, returns are so big, right? In Thailand and in our markets, it's actually less than 10%. So it's still incredibly small. But when you look at e-commerce pure play, there's a loss, right, in the business. But once you start to buy online, return in store, you can start to see the additional purchases, right? This means consumers will buy more products when they're physically in the store. Hence, you want to start to drive them from online to offline. Buy online, pick up, and return in store. You can see the returns on that, and that's massive. And when this is very recent, literally yesterday, Target says online sales surge tied to store inventory, right? And this is what's amazing, because when you start to actually drive people to the store, you can see the results happening. Procter & Gamble at the Consumer Analyst Group conference, traffic shifting from mass to e-commerce. So I want to show you some of the trends that are happening globally. You can go to pginvestor.com, see this for yourself, the full report. But this is amazing to see actually that e-commerce, right, being really the dominance in terms of the shift for the masses. And then one of the reasons why was 2013, right? Procter & Gamble did a deal with Amazon, right, to basically have Amazon fulfillment by Amazon inside the Procter & Gamble warehouse, to do fulfillments faster, right? Similar to kind of what we're doing with DKSH and some of our other business partners. But when you think about being able to fulfill, it's really important. The speed of being able to fulfill those orders. And Procter & Gamble Shop is, when you say indirect and direct, direct means direct to the website, Procter & Gamble Shop, where they own the website. And then through partners is to third-party retailers. So when you can see, other popular categories for buying in-store versus offline. Again, this is, interviewing offline. Home and living, food and beverage, and etc. Global cross-border trends. When you can see creating a good omni-channel experience gives local retailers a defensive advantage, because cross-border is just booming, both from Amazon and Alibaba. Global cross-border, when you think about buying a dress for $100, this is the tax that you're paying, the tariffs. So it's still very challenging for anybody to actually buy, but the product selection still makes them want to pay that extra 39% for a $100 dress. 82% of the world's consumers shop already in shop products abroad. And when you look at here, top e-commerce sites used by Thais for purchase, Facebook, for me, was amazing because it's really driven from C2C. But Lazada, by far, B2C, they're the leaders. But when you look at, kind of all the social media, it's a huge stat because, a lot of people think it's just B2C sites, but actually the consumer sites, are picking up. Here, I just want to show you the global versus local, right? And meaning that when you look at Lazada, pretty much number one in all these markets, but the consumer themselves, they actually shop on these international sites. So if you're a retailer sitting in this room and you're seeing your customer buying overseas in all these websites, right? You have to think about how fast you need to evolve to set up a local service, local operations, because it has to be superior to then, Amazon or Alibaba. Thais buy online, convenience, selection, price. A lot of people think it's price, but it's actually also convenience. And the more omni-channel it is, the more convenient it is. E-commerce readiness, you can see Thailand here. It's just obviously moving up the food chain, and our goal is obviously to get up to Singapore, Switzerland, Sweden, and etc. So the further up, the better. E-commerce growth is highly dependent on logistics and payments. And so when you look at, the cost of logistics, that's going to start to drop over time, as the market starts to mature. And when you look at here, one of the reasons what's really driving a lot of e-commerce is also the private equity funding in ASEAN. This is only to 2014. 2015 was actually a very big year. You have Lazada, Tokopedia, all these big players, including even We Love Shopping, investing a lot of money into e-commerce. It's a very hot sector, but overall, this is good for customers, and I think it will be also good for businesses as you start to see more and more solutions out there. I like to show this slide because it shows you just a company like FedEx, which is rumored to be, people are basically saying that they might get acquired by Amazon, right? And why their stock's kind of going up recently. But it's really interesting to see all their services here being broken down, right? By startups going after them, almost like death by 1,000 cuts. And even a company like aCommerce, I know you guys may look at us as a startup. We think like a startup, but we also have 1,000+ staff in our business. 1,000, right? And so we're getting to a level where if we're not good at every one of these things, services that we offer, there are going to be startups that are also coming, and coming after us as well. So embrace the change. I like to end with this slide, which is, you got to look out for these two guys. I thought there's a very interesting picture with both of them together. But really the motto I would like to end with is, it's not the big that eats the small, it's the fast that eats the slow. And in this game, in internet, in e-commerce, or just now the new world order, it's all about speed. Thank you.